Welcome to Nasdaq Trade Talks. I'm Jill Malandrino, Global Markets Reporter at Nasdaq. Joining me is Sam Zeitz. He's the CEO of Grubber to discuss the role that technology will play as amusement parks around the U.S. open. Sam, it's great to have you with us. Welcome to Trade Talks.
Well, thank you, Jill, for having me today.
All right, and I would imagine a challenge at an amusement park with little kids running around and their families having to chase them is social distancing and what our world is going to look like on the other side of COVID-19. So how is customer service going to shift, and how will parks like Disney adapt to new expectations?
Yeah, it's not about eliminating 100%. It's about mitigating. So when you start talking about theme parks, a lot of them have hot spots, areas that concentration. So one concentration area is when you enter the park. So what are they going to start to do to implement, whether it's self-ordering or self-processing type technologies that will eliminate the person-to-person contact? Because if you look at what's out there, most contact person-to-person is what's driving a lot of the passage of the COVID. The CDC has come out and said actually even touching things like touch screens, highly unlikely you're going to catch it, but if you're communicating in close proximity to someone, talking or even screaming, that's where you're getting it. So you see this huge advent now, at least we've seen it from stadiums and amusement parks and all types of places like this, of how do we start to implement technology and reduce the person-to-person contact. So at the entrance of the park, there's the utilization now of thermal temperature kiosks, utilizing those to be able to quickly process people through it without actually having somebody go in and physically take their temperature. And that can be done literally in a matter of a couple seconds to screen people that if they have a temperature, prevent them from entering the park with their party. Another hot spot is obviously concessions and ordering food in souvenirs. So again, technology, whether it's mobile ordering, whether it's kiosks, online, all these things will help to eliminate the lines, which is the most important, because when you have a concentration of people, the likelihood of catching something is increased. And then utilizing technology even on the delivery side of it. So we're seeing a drastic increase in the utilization of food lockers. You've seen lockers implemented. Most people have seen them like Whole Foods by Amazon, but they're also starting now to be utilized with food. So this way, again, the person preparing the food is not in direct contact with the consumer, and that creates also the safety concern for the food preparer as well.
And Sam, we've actually seen a lot of this already taking place. I know for sure in McDonald's, I believe Wendy's has also been testing it, where it has been a kiosk format. So this is something that Americans, even overseas too, the first time I experienced it was actually in London, we're getting used to that. This has been in the works for a while. I just think people need to come to terms, and this was the same thing after 9/11, where security protocol and taking a little bit longer to get through the airports, it took some time to get used to. Perhaps this is going to be our new normal. Perhaps this is the most efficient way to get people in and out of food service and the amusement parks. And I'm hoping on the other side of COVID-19, from a sanitization perspective, that we've learned a little bit more about healthcare and how to keep each other safe. So that could be the silver lining too.
Listen, we were going to go down this path well before Corona came out. This was, you just mentioned airports. If people think back 10, 15 years ago, you stood in this long line to see a ticketing agent, right? And that person wasn't necessarily the happiest person because she saw a line that never ended. But now, what do? You take your phone with a QR code and you check in, or you use one of 40 kiosks that have no wait. So that part of airline travel now is actually seamless and a pleasant experience. Maybe it's different when you get to TSA now for the reasons you just mentioned, but the check-in part of it is far better. You were going to see that well before Corona came on the scene. It just was going to transpire the same way that it happened at the airports over 10 years. And then somebody would think back and go, wow, when did that person disappear? Because the technology facilitates it and makes it a pleasant experience. COVID resulted in doing it now, because it also brought in these safety concerns that you obviously just brought up.
Yeah, and you're absolutely right. COVID-19 did accelerate these trends. So Sam, to wrap up here, what's next for the industry? And do you think parks can survive? I mean, clearly the demand is going to look the same as it was when we started with lockdown in the middle of March for most of America, but it seems like anything else that's going to evolve and find what its new normal looks like.
Well, as a father of 3 teenagers, I can assure you the demand is still there because my kids are dying to get back to the parks, and they're counting the days until they can get back to Orlando. So, you know, if that's one data point, I can assure you that the demand is there. What is it going to look like is going to be different. When you walk in, more likely than not, at least in the short term, the next year or two, you will see, you know, temperature kiosks monitoring people who are walking in the park to again, mitigate the people that definitely have a temperature and can pass that on. You're going to see utilization of technology, kiosks, mobile, etc., in the ordering of the food in the retail section of it. You'll see these food lockers again for the delivery aspects of it. You'll also see, you know, line queuing where instead of having people stand in these long lines, you'll get text to come back between a certain time range, and you'll come back. You got to eliminate these hot spots where people congregate, because that's where you're going to end up passing, whether it's, you know, COVID or some other disease that might come in the future. So that's how I think, you know, parks were not, you know, embracing technology. They were typically laggards when it came to technology. Disney was at the forefront with a number of things that they were doing. But this is forcing the entire industry to catch up and actually become leaders if they want to be successful.
And I love that idea of texting, as you are very well aware of with 3 teenagers when they were younger, what it's like standing in a line for an hour, hour and a half, trying to keep them entertained, whereas you can do other things with them now, and then, you know, just have a window of 15 to 20 minutes before you have to get back on that line. So I love that idea, COVID or no COVID. And one more question for you, Sam. Where does Grubber fit into the amusement park ecosystem?
Okay, so thank you for that question. We're the leader in self-ordering technology. So kiosks, online, mobile ordering, and then we also tie in with the food lockers, and you know, we even play with the digital signage as well. But we play in that entire ecosystem. So it's really, everybody says, oh, it's going to be mobile, or oh, it's going to be kiosk, or oh, it's going to be this or that. It's an omni-channel approach. Mm-hmm. Which you realize is you need to have each of these. Not one is the silver bullet, but a combination of these, because all consumers react differently, and they want to be spoken to in a different manner.
Yeah, that's an excellent point, Sam. Thank you so much for joining us on Trade Talks.
Great, thank you for having me on today.
And thanks for joining me. I'm Jill Malandrino, Global Markets Reporter at Nasdaq.